Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news this Sunday, match day, FA Cup day for Manchester United, but we've got more important stuff to talk about than that this morning as we get into the latest news and transfer news. A little bit of homework for you. Remember later in the show to remind me about 5 years because I've got two big bits of news to bring you this morning that might make you sit back in your chair and say not again. So two things really. One, very much summer transfer related and why Man United's summer transfer plans are in the bin, basically. And two, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is your interim, barring a major development in the next 48 hours. He is the guy that Man United are going to go with. What are your thoughts on that? I think there's some very interesting clips coming out about Solskjaer in his interviews he did after being Man United manager, you know, asking people to put their hand up if they want to play for the club. Nobody wanted to be his captain. Well, let me tell you this. So, one of the major reasons they're going to go with Solskjaer is because they spoke to the players on Tuesday and the players, senior players, some senior players wanted Solskjaer. Since Solskjaer left Manchester United, in his own words, only 3 players reached out to him. Lindelof, who's not there anymore, Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes. So I think we can start to figure out, who the players might be that are saying we need to get Solskjaer back. But should the club be listening to the players? Well, I think they're listening to themselves and we'll certainly delve into that. However, the more interesting thing for me this morning is the news around transfers and the summer, because regardless of why we're going for an interim, and I think there are multiple reasons why we shouldn't be going for an interim of this ilk. Ex-player, been here before, papering the cracks, etc. I think there are better options out there. The scary thing is that there are still elements of our fan base that are so ridiculously naive that they think the interim's just going to come in, manage a few games, and then disappear in the summer. What you're completely missing is that the manager we had at the start of the week, who had us 3 points off fourth, and, at the start of a project, got sacked because he asked for transfers in January. And the interim that's going to come in is not going to ask for transfers in January. I think it's really important that we remember the reason we're changing manager is because the manager that was previously here wanted signings in January, something we all wanted, and they sacked him for it. So what is going to happen now in the next transfer window where we're meant to be buying players, i.e. the summer? Well, Man United's transfer plans are in tatters. You can't speak to Elliot Anderson in March and say, come to Man United. What are you selling? A mystery star prize. Well, who's your manager? We don't know. What are you going to be in Europe? We don't know. Wake up and smell the coffee. We've absolutely destroyed our summer transfer window as of today. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be rescued in some way, shape or form. But whatever the plan was a week ago, it doesn't exist anymore. Look at how long we're taking to find an interim. This sacking on Monday was ill-advised, ill thought out, and, let's be honest, very, very reactionary. You don't sack a manager on Monday and a week later you're still interviewing interims. They are absolutely on their arse when it comes to their plan. But the significant thing that worries me is we can roll the dice between now and the end of the season on Europe. We can get Europe. There might be, we are only 3 points off the Champions League, probably only about 4 points off 14th as well. But, it could go either way, let's be honest. But what happens next season is that with Europe, you double your load. And with that squad, we know it's not good enough. So the summer transfer window, with or without Amrim, with or without Europe, is absolutely huge for Manchester United. And strategically, somebody explained to me, as I'm about to drop another truth bomb as well, what is it we are now selling in the summer to you, the fans, and any prospective signing? Because I'll tell you this for free. When you want to buy players in the summer transfer window, you don't pick up the phone after the World Cup and go, hey, Anderson, I bet you've had no calls, have you? Well, surprise, surprise, it's your lucky day. We really want you. Ancelotti's the manager. Come on down. And he goes, oh, thank fucking God for that. I've not had any calls over the last 6 months. People will be speaking to Adam Wharton's agent, Elliot Anderson's agent, Angelo Stiller's agent, Carlos Balaba's agent. Everyone's going to get phone calls and conversations going on pretty much from now until the summer. How do Man United position themselves in those conversations now? Now, I'm not saying it would have been easy with Amorim and Champions League football, because you've still got idiots doing negotiations. But imagine speaking to Adam Wharton's agent or Elliot or whoever your dream midfielder is and going, yeah. Well, I've heard that Man City have made a play for you. They're idiots. And Liverpool want you as well. Well, I wouldn't go there. Why? Well, I know something, but just trust me, I wouldn't go there. You should come to Manchester. You could Manchester United. Why is that then? Well, we're Manchester United. We're the famous Man United. We're Manchester United. Gary, play it. We're Manchester United. What else? Well, we hope to be in Europe. We're going to build a new stadium. With the government's help, we are going to build a new stadium. Yeah, and what about the team? Well, yeah, well, look, DNA. The DNA, you know, the DNA, the United way. Get it, you know, risk football. Yeah, okay, you're going to do that anytime soon. That's the plan. Who's the manager? Don't know at the moment, but there's a brilliant song. We reckon it might get in the top 20 on Spotify. It's called Ollie's at the Wheel, and people are still singing it. They are still singing it. Do you want a stadium tour as well? We can throw that in. Yeah, Carrington's got a new gym and it's got a new canteen. Yeah, okay. So basically what you're selling me is Man United. We don't know who the manager is. You don't know what your plan is. And you don't even know if you're going to be in Europe. See you later. Because that's what we're selling now for the next 6 months. We haven't even got a project. Now, I'm not saying that Amorim was going to be the manager next year or anything like that. But at least if you're picking up the phone to Anderson, he can look at Man United and go, okay, you know, I either like or don't like what Amorim's doing at Man United, you know. But if you pick up the phone to Anderson in March now, he's going to go, you've got an interim in charge. Are you going to give him? Well, we might give him the job. Oh, great. I'd love to sign for a club that's got an interim that always gets sacked. Yep. So who is your manager? We don't know. And this is lunacy, absolute pure lunacy. And again, it's something that it amazes me that the mainstream don't really pick up on it. But as we know, a lot of them are on the, you know, client journalism. But it scares me more that I think the club haven't thought this through as well. You know, you've absolutely messed up big time. And look, hallelujah, people are waking up to it. But it's not just sacking the manager and going for an interim. It's what it's going to do to us over the next 6 months. Even if we get Europe, we're probably going to miss out on players because we're not. What are we going to be able to sell them? I mean, imagine Solskjaer's got the job, and imagine it's the end of March and we're fourth, and Liverpool are 3 points behind us and we're fourth place, and it's the international break in March, and you're on the phone to, I don't know, Elliot Anderson or whatever, and you're like, look, we're fourth at the moment, and you know, we want you, and he goes, okay, well, I'll wait till the end of May because I want to know who your manager is and I want to know if you're going to get the Champions League. We've still got to be in a position at the end of the May where we've got Champions League and a manager, which I don't think we will. So I think it's a big problem. Now, also, what we've been told is that, and you have to assume it's Solskjaer, is that the interim will have a say on transfers. Now, I don't know how that's going to work. In one way, it's slightly better, and before you panic, listen to it. In one way, it's slightly better than not having a say. But does that not also lean towards they're going to stay? So what we're hearing is that it will be Solskjaer. And what we're hearing is that if it is Solskjaer or it's Carrick or it's Fletcher, they will have a say on summer transfers, which in itself sounds completely incredible. But if they're not there, it's sort of like, it makes sense to them to be there, but it's terrifying that they're there. But then if they're not there, it's even worse. So the way my brain's working is that let's say Solskjaer gets it, and then all these transfer meetings have to take place over the next few months. They have to. You can't wait until the summer. You've got to be talking about transfers now until the summer. So Solskjaer, if he gets the job, would be there on the transfer board giving his thoughts on it, which is lunacy in itself because we've been here before. And also, if he's leaving, how is that fair on the next manager? Of course, I don't think he is leaving. I think he will be here next year, but go with it. Which is terrifying in itself to have the interim on the transfer board. But ultimately, if he's not on the transfer board, or he is on the transfer board is Barada and Wilcox and Favell. So either way, we're screwed, aren't we, really? Either way, we're in trouble. You either put the interim on the board and then they're going to get the job full time, or you don't put the interim on the board and you just go with the board, which is Wilcox and co. So it's scary. It's really scary. And there is a bit of rumour going around that Wilcox is going to lose his job. I don't think Wilcox is going to lose his job. I don't think Wilcox is going to lose his job at all. I mean, look, what we're basically left with is the clown asylum. I think that at least Ruben Amorim had a team in the Champions League that had won a title and a system and a vision of where he wanted to go. I think we're visionless now. I think we're Stevie Wonder FC. I think we're absolutely blind as to what we're going to do. And I think that's really, really worrying, because when they're having these transfer meetings now, again, I think this is so big. I think this is so big in the sense that everybody's missed it. And it's either crap journalism, which it could be, naive fandom, which it could be, or people hadn't thought of it. But it's absolutely massive, and it's going to cause us a big problem. This summer transfer window, which is meant to be so important for Man United, is going to be a shambles, because for the next few months, the people making the decisions are going to be an interim coach, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, Favell, and probably Sir Jim. That's our transfer board going into a supposedly yet another monumentous summer transfer window where we have to get it right. I mean, that's terrifying. Those people on that board choosing our players for the summer, it's terrifying. And also, again, I think it's just another indicator that we're not getting a proper manager in the summer. We're not going to get a proper manager in the summer. This is just a massive smokescreen, because if you've got an interim and Wilcox sat there deciding who to go for in the summer, you've got to go for them in March. You've got to go for them in April. Cunha was done in March. And Burmo was being spoken to in April. Those deals were being done in season. We don't even know who the manager's going to be if we're going to get a new manager. So it's just very obvious to me what's going to happen. It's going to be interim for life, and God knows who they're going to go for. But it's scary, because yet again, there are just people out there that just want to sing the song and pretend everything's okay without absolutely looking at, genuine, not speculative issues. Players are bought in March and April. Agents are spoken to from now. And what are we selling? What are we selling? I don't know. And who are making the decisions? Well, I don't want them making decisions, but that's sort of where we are. And look, I was very critical of Amorim, as you know, but at least there was a vision to the end of the season to build towards. I mean, if Amorim had stayed till the end of the season, the players we're talking to are going to be players that think Amorim's going to be there next year. Who are we going to be talking to now, and why would you want... I don't know. I just think it's an absolute mess, if I'm being completely honest. And the 5-year thing, I've remembered myself. So, look, what we're sort of hearing out of United is that it's chaos, which is normal. That's not breaking news. It's normally chaos out of Man United. But what we're hearing out of United at the moment is that it's absolute chaos. People like Bruno Fernandes and Harry Maguire have had to step up a lot this week and take on a lot of responsibility. They're being consulted on what interim to go for, as we know. They're having to do a lot of the organising and support as senior players. Now, whether they're the right senior players for this or not, well, that's up for debate. But there we go. The club clearly didn't expect to be sacking their manager last week, and they have. We've seen with the interim chaos that they don't really know what they're doing. As I said, the transfer plans are in tatters. But the big problem Ineos have got is that their plan when they came into United was basically a 5-year plan. I think they looked at the last 10 years and went, if we can just replicate the last 10 years over the next 5, we'll be fine. Basically what they were thinking is hang around 4th and 5th every year, Champions League, Europa League, one of the two every year. 5 years of just, there'll be a bit of mumbling, but ultimately we're a Champions League / Europa League side and we're around 4th place, maybe win a domestic trophy a couple of times. You just tread water at a level that you're never going to get booted. you get the stadium built, and then you start to reap the benefits of the money there. And that was the strategy of the club for 5 years, just to keep it going how it has been for the last 10. Yeah, there'll be some moaning, there'll be some bad days, you might have to sack a manager, but ultimately you're just floating around 4th or 5th, qualifying for Europe, maybe a domestic trophy. Just keep the money coming in until you've got that stadium. That was the plan for 5 years. And the Glazers were sold on that plan from Sir Jim, and Sir Jim's obviously a big help in getting the stadium. So that was the plan, but obviously 2 years in, it's a bloody nightmare. Year 1, they've not qualified for Europe. Year 2, it might not happen. They've sacked 2 managers. They've spent over £500 million on transfers. The club is on its arse. Every appointment they've made has made them worse. There's a general consensus that Wilcox is worse than Murta, that Barada is actually worse than Arnold. That's from within. And the club is in an absolute mess. Now, I mean, the scary thing is that when you look at teams like Nice, it tends to just get worse. Sir Jim Radcliffe and his football organisation at Ineos are not renowned for making decisions that make things better. Nice has got gradually worse, sacked more and more managers. They're not doing very, very well. So it's almost like the club are in free fall at the moment, and it's hard for anybody in the club of note to see how this is going to turn around. What that means for the stadium, well, it's still 5 years ahead, and it's still full steam ahead. They still really want to push for that. That's ultimately their number one ambition, is to get that stadium built, because it doubles their money, it doubles their investment, makes them very, very rich. But they've got a huge problem in the short term, which should be their focus, which is the actual team. And protests are about to come back, and the United are hemorrhaging money again. So, look, it just looks like they're chasing one bad decision after another. But I wouldn't be misunderstanding just how important the game is this afternoon. It's the FA Cup. It's an avenue into Europe. It's more revenue. Staying in the FA Cup itself is more revenue. We haven't played many games this season, so it's a very, very big game for United this afternoon. But the bigger picture is that, to anybody who thought sacking Amrim was the right thing to do, maybe it was in your head based on what you would have done afterwards. But I don't think even the most staunch Amrim outer can say, well, I wanted Amrim sacked, and then we're messing around interviewing interims, and we've got Jason Wilcox picking our transfers for the summer. I don't think that's what people wanted when they said Amrim out. I think they wanted Amrim out and a Xavi in, or an Emery in, or a Conte in, or an Ancelotti in. I think when people were saying Amrim out, they were like, get rid of this manager and bring a competent manager in. I don't think. There might be a bit of stubbornness there, but I don't think this is what the Amrim outers wanted, and I think they would have kept him till the end of the season based on what we've learned over the last 2 weeks, because what's happening with the interims is a joke, but what's going to happen with the transfer window is even more scary. I mean, you've got Jason Wilcox, whoever the interim is, Omar Barada picking our signings for the summer and trying to sell a dream, and I don't think they can. I don't think they can. But it is worth just popping that in your heads. On a week that's been very, demanding and, stressful, it is very much important that you take into account the bigger picture. And the reality is that we've sacked a manager because he wanted signings in January, and January is clearly not going to be anything. You've got Aston Villa trying to bring in a striker and a midfielder now, and they're already 10 points ahead of us, and they're already in Europe. So, we talk about Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal and the money they're going to keep spending by being in the Champions League and how far ahead of us they are. Well, let's add another club in, Aston Villa. They're in the top 4. They're playing in Europe. They're a better team than us with a better manager than us. And in January, they're looking for a midfielder and a striker. I mean, so where are we in the grand scheme of things now? We're definitely not competing with the top 4, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. And you've now got Aston Villa acting more like a big club than we are. So it's scary, and it's really scary when you're going to pick up the phone to a player and go, sign for Man United, and they go, why? And you go, because we're Man United. And they go, well, who's the manager? Well, probably Ollie. What, next year? Yeah, bye. So it is scary. And ultimately, unless we can find decent players that are dyed in the wool Man United fans, because that's what happened with Cunha and Mbeumo, I think we're going to struggle. I think we're really going to struggle. But wake up to that. The transfer strategy for the summer is in tatters. who do you sign? Well, and that's a good point as well. Who are we signing? Like, what's the plan? Because if Glasner's going to be the manager, I need to buy different players compared to if Luis Enrique was the manager. You know, you can't do it blind, which is why they'll go with the interim. Which is why the interim's going to be sat on the board. Let's watch and let's wait and see. Let me just get in some of your comments. Then I've got some interesting quotes from Solskjaer as well. Should bring in Hertzler as our Rosignol. I don't rate Hertzler. I mean, I know that might be famous last words, but I don't rate him anyway. This is the Brighton manager, isn't it? Mark, surely it's no surprise to you that the ownership are using the situation at the minute as an excuse not to make any January transfers, says Castle. Of course, I'm not stupid. Can the Glazers get rid of Ineos, says Smog. Yeah, but you're sort of hoping that the Glazers are competent there, and they're the biggest problem of all. If there was a plan, an interim would mean we would be waiting for a World Cup coach or waiting for somebody like Glasner's contract to expire, says Ross McRae Magician. Ollie as a manager didn't even have a say on Ronaldo coming in. Imagine him as interim who publicly said he'd work for free. It's time for free United shirts, says Al. I actually burnt more calories thinking and hoping when the bloody owners of this club will change than on a treadmill. One of life's setbacks, you know, says Amit. Let them bring Ollie back, says Rajaf, because when it inevitably turns to shit, the fans cannot and will not accept Ineos anymore. Ollie will be Ineos' demise, says Rajaf. Keep banging the drum, criticising honest Ineos as well, says Andrew. I'm going to come back to your point, Rajaf, about Ollie, because there's some interesting quotes that we just have to cover. I can see us fluking top four and fans thinking we're back, says the Pepsi. Look, mate, I've heard a few people. I mean, I was out last night and somebody showed me this screenshot and I was like, what's this? And they said, oh, it's just what someone said about you online. I said, I don't look. And they went, no, well, have a look at it. And I did. And it said, Goldbridge hates players outside of Manchester. He only protects players from Manchester. And I was like, oh my God. You know, but the reason I mention that is because we do have people in our fan base who are literally, you know, they'll listen to any tune. You know, they can't think. That they'll hear the Ollies at the wheel and they'll just be back going, yeah, and they don't realise that they're cheering for a yes man who's basically going to help the Glazers and Ineos out. You know, that's what Ollie is. He's running in with a smile on his face and everyone thinks he's a saviour and he's not. He's just another yes man. He's proved that for 3 years. He's a lovely guy. He's a legend of the club, but he's just a Glazer yes man, which is exactly what he did for 3 years. 3 years ago. To be honest, Ollie did state he scouted Haaland, Bellingham, just not backs, not the manager, but has a good eye on talent, says Josh. Oh, yeah, mate. You know what? I've always said this, Joshua. It's incredible how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer scouted Jude Bellingham and Erling Haaland and nobody knew anything about them. I mean, it's incredible. It wasn't like Haaland was smashing in goals for Salzburg and Bellingham was playing centre midfield at 16 in the Championship. It was Solskjaer who spotted those talents. Nobody in the world of football knew about them. Yeah, that's why Dortmund signed Haaland and Bellingham. Yeah, nobody knew about it at all. It all points Ollie being the next manager full time. How you let an interim manager be looking at transfers? For me, I wanted success, but it means Ollie is our next manager. Mate, I'm not crying. I've just got an itch. As I said to you last night, you know, acceptance is the best way to. Denial is acceptance is better than denial. Acceptance means you can deal with the issue. Denial means is that you bury it. I'm absolutely convinced that Solskjaer will be here at Christmas. Absolutely convinced. Bring Rude back, Mark. Ollie's 2 weeks. Lets the players run the club, says Michael. Well, that's what I've always said, Michael. You know, if you ask the players who they want and they say Ollie, I wouldn't get him. I wouldn't listen to these players. Have they won multiple Premier Leagues? Have they qualified for the Champions League and done well? Have they let us down numerous times? Are they inconsistent? I wouldn't listen to inconsistent players on what they want. Absolutely not. I don't care what you want. You're paid to play for Man United. I'm going to go to the opposite of what you want because you haven't deserved the right to tell me what you want. It's like asking turkeys if they want to cancel Christmas. I wouldn't ask a player. Don't care who it is. Bruno, Luke Shaw. I just wouldn't ask them. I don't care what you think. You're not good enough for you to tell me what the next manager should be. You know, if you know... Not interested at all. Goldbridge says, if we somehow get into the Champions League, we'll see the funds dry up again, typical Glazer style. The best thing is we crash down to 10th and all delusions are crushed. There's a few people saying that, Goldbridge. I mean, I that would mean losing today. that would mean losing next week. I just can't do that. I can't do that. As much as I want the ownership to change, and as much as I sort of agree that it all falling down is the best way to, put pressure on, I just can't get on board with wanting United to lose games of football in the hope that something. It's like the people who say if we get relegated, we'll get rid of the Glazers. I don't actually think we would. It'd be 46 games. I mean, in a way, obviously for one season, of course, I'm not sure it would do the Glazers any harm. You play 46 games instead of 38, so that's another 3 home games. We'll win every game. I don't think they would go at all, really, if I'm being honest. Sorry, I'm just getting rid of Emil. You know who you are. Goodbye. You're a Glazer bot, mate. Thoughts on the Soccer Saturday panel finally speaking about their masters Ineos and Sir Jim. This has to be the beginning of the end for the Glinios, says Rajaf. Well, it's about bloody time. It's just whether they keep up with it or not. Thoughts, summer's in hands of a guy who chased Liam Delap, says Red Devil. The board should be capped in hindsight, learn from the previous board and let Solskjaer finish the job he started. Won 15, drew 1 in his first 16. He moved mountains, trust the manager and back his system. God, and these people are the problem. But it's great that you have a platform to speak, but bloody hell. I'm not saying I'm in Ollie getting the interim, but do you think he might actually do better with the squad he will now have compared to before, says Dan. No, well, look, I listened to Solskjaer. I've got a few quotes from Solskjaer. Let me just get through these final super chats, right? But let's hire that brilliant coach Jason Wilcox just for the pleasure of sacking him, says Eternity. Chelsea looked good last night. Top 4 gone, says We Are United. Messi 2012, Goldbridge 2026. We're witnessing greatness. I'm just glad I got to witness both, says Perk. Okay. So, look, it's interesting that there is a theory that Solskjaer will do better this time because the players are better than what he had last time. I think that's debatable. Like, he had some good players last time. But in his own words, when he went into Man United last time, he basically said that the players, had low confidence. They were, they hated losing. They were losing a lot of games. They had low confidence. And I went in there and basically said, it's Manchester United. Let's get out there and enjoy our football and this, that and the other. And they did. But there's a huge difference here, and we've been talking about it this week. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not walking into a dressing room that's low on confidence and, having bad results. They're walking into a dressing room that didn't want the manager to be sacked. They're walking into a dressing room that was quite confused as to why the manager got sacked, and they're walking into a dressing room where the manager's been sacked because he fell out with the board, not the players. So Solskjaer's not walking into a dressing room where everyone's on their arse, really fed up and everything like that. It's a different environment for a start. He's also walking into a club that, when Mourinho got sacked, everybody blamed Mourinho. To be honest, I wanted Mourinho out, but we didn't have the information. We didn't know at the time that the players had ganged up with Woodward and basically thrown Mourinho under the bus. We just didn't like the results and we wanted Jose out. We know what this club is now. So Ollie's walking into a very, very different club. I think when he came in last time, no one really had an issue with the players, didn't know about player power, didn't really think enough about the Glazers, etc. It's a very different world that Ollie's walking into now. In many ways, it's a more dangerous world. I mean, he's walking in as... Last time he was walking in as the saviour, Ollie's a legend. This time he's walking in as Ollie's a legend, but he's the saviour for the Glazers and Ineos. Is he the saviour for the fans? Did we want this week? Did we want Amrim to be sacked and Ollie to come in? I think we wanted Jose to be sacked and Ollie to come in. I don't think we wanted Amrim to be sacked for Ollie to come in as a saviour for the Glazers. We wanted the board to be sacked. So it's a very different world. I also think there's some really interesting quotes from Solskjaer since his sacking. Like he spoke about, on the overlap, he spoke about the Watford game, which was his last game. And, he's basically crying again. And he's going, I looked around the dressing room and I knew it was over. I was basically asking the players who wanted to play in the second half, put your hand up. And you're sort of like, how can Man United look at that clip and go, this is the guy to bring back to the club? Like, we've never had Ten Hag or Jose or Rangnick do interviews like that afterwards. Solskjaer sat there in the last 6 months on the overlap with tears in his eyes, telling us why he got sacked at Man United. Because basically the players down tools on him. And in his final dressing room speech at half-time, he's asking players who actually want to play in the second half, put your hands up. I mean, that's not coaching. That's not coaching. That is a coach who relies on everybody liking him. And when they don't like him, he's got to ask them to put their hands up if they want to play for him. And United are now going to go back to that. It's scary. And also, he said that, he had trouble appointing a captain because people didn't want it. It is scary. It is really scary. And also, there are players in that dressing room who, according to him, have never reached out to him after he got sacked either. So how United think this is a good idea, I don't know. I mean, look, you can only go off what you can see, and you listen to some of these interviews that he's given, and, and also, he also had Carrick and McKenna with him. He's not going to have them this time. So he's not the management team he was last time, and it didn't end well anyway. But I think Ollie is a lovely guy, from what I've heard, and he's definitely a legend of the club. But I think he's a nice, safe pair of hands that the club would love to get in and love to see him fight for fifth every year for 5 years so they can get the stadium built. I just think he's a holder. And because he's a legend, it will play on a lot of fans' heartstrings and protect them, ultimately. But I don't think any competent football club in the world would be re-recruiting a manager who sat on an interview and said, in my final game, crying, I knew it was over. I looked around the dressing room and they didn't want it, and I had to ask them to put their hands up if they wanted to play in the second half. I mean, it's just not leadership, is it? It's not inspiring. It's not. And the thing is, as well, when you've portrayed that weakness, those players aren't robots. That'll be legacy chat in the dressing room, and they'll know this time that they can do it again. But it's where we're going to be, isn't it? I don't even know if Darren Fletcher. I mean, I want us to win today anyway, because I want us to stay in the cup. I want us to win. But I'd like us to win today anyway, because, maybe there's a chance we stick with Fletcher. Ollie solidifies the song Hello from the other side, says Amit. He's walking into a talentless squad besides Bruno Maguire. This is just going to give Glazers another 5 years of pressure, says Artak. It's disgusting, fans wanting their team to lose, says Castle. I think he'll do well, says Treeman. I can't remember when Ollie was here and it was terrible football to watch. Was so happy when he was sacked. Yes, bring him back, says Dazzo. I mean, to be fair, Dazzo, I mean, I might be in the minority here, but I do speak honestly and I'm not going to lie. There's no point. The clips are there anyway. I desperately wanted Solskjaer sacked at the end. I was very happy when he went. I felt sorry for him, but I didn't want him to stay. I wanted him to go. So, I mean, everybody's entitled to changing their opinions. It was a long time ago. I respect that, but I just think it's massively hypocritical for me to say I'm happy that Solskjaer's coming back and I want this to happen. I absolutely don't want it to happen. I will back him because I like him. I want him to do well. I don't know whether I back him. I want him to do well, but I don't want him back. I don't want him back at all. I don't want Ten Hag back. I don't want Van Gaal back. I don't want Moyes back. I don't want them back. They've had their time. I didn't enjoy it I didn't enjoy the last year of Solskjaer at all. And also, it was such a. I think what people forget as well is, at least when you've got Rangnick or Mourinho or Amrim, you sense there is that tension between them and the board. You feel that they're more on the fans' side. You feel that tension between them and the board as they battle to try and make Man United great again. When Solskjaer was here, I felt he was always a company man. He always had the board's back. He would never say anything bad about the Glazers or the board ever. And I don't like that type of era at Man United because we have a horrific board. We have horrific owners. And you need a manager that hints at that whilst playing the game. And I think Rangnick was good at it, Amrin was good at it, Mourinho was good at it. Ten Hag wasn't bad at it in the first year, but Solskjaer just played the company line. And as a fan, you want your manager to feel closer to a line to you than the board. They've got to play the game, but Ollie, it just felt like Ollie just was a company man, and I didn't enjoy that. I didn't. Haaland was at Mulder, not Salzburg, when Ollie called United, so we need a no man then, like Amrim says Caven. Mate, look, you're moving the goalpost now. We tried to sign Haaland when he was at Salzburg. We tried to sign Bellingham when he was playing in the midfield for Birmingham. If you want to talk about Ollie being at Mulder with Haaland, well, is that not just fortune? I could be coaching Solihull Moors and the English Messi just happens to be in their youth team at 16. And I ring Man United up and go, this is a great player. I don't call that amazing scouting. I mean, Haaland was going to be the world's best striker anyway. He just happened to start off at Mulder. So, yeah, give Ollie some credit for it. But it's not like, oh, shit, let's give him a Man United job again. He's had his job at Man United. You know, we recruited him maybe off the fact that he knew about Haaland at Mulder. People are acting like this is the first time. We've already had it. He's already had 2.5 years here. He's already had 2.5 years at Man United. And guess what? Before he got the job last time, he knew about Haaland at Mulder. So, what are we doing? Apart from getting on the hamster wheel and doing it again. Ollie also extended Jones's contract. I'm so tired of this club, says JBG. If we accept Ollie back, we accept defeat forever, says Frank. Man United is an average mid-table club, says Yassine. Well, you know what? I didn't watch Chelsea last night, but it worries me a little bit because if Chelsea are on the bounce back and Liverpool looked good against Arsenal on Thursday, they did. That's the best I've seen them play all season. So if Liverpool and Chelsea are on the bounce back for the second half of the season, and it can happen, Man City was shit until Christmas last year, and then second half of the season, they were amazing. So if Liverpool and Chelsea have a good second half of the season, and Villa stay where they are, that puts us in 6th, assuming Newcastle don't have a glow-up as well. So we're in for a very, very, very difficult second half to the season. And what worries me is when the going gets tough, I'm not going to do it, when the going gets tough, this squad doesn't tend to roll its sleeves up, does it? They will probably try and buy Ramos. They will copy Chelsea the way they bought Thiago Silva, says Bradley. Rohan says, I really admire your discipline. How did you develop it and what advice would you give to someone trying to build it? What are you trying to build? I need to know what you're trying to build. Are you trying to build Lego? I mean, I do my Lego Instagrams. Are we happier to be like Spurs, non-competitive in all aspects, and happier to have Beyonce playing in our shiny new stadium, says Connor? I think that's the plan. I think that is the plan. Hi, Mark. We all want the board to leave, but I'm scared we will be stuck with them for many years, says Samuel. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Amit says, owners went from twat to twatter to twattiest. No, yeah, look, going back to what Samuel said, I don't think they're going anywhere, the owners. I don't think that... you know, in all honesty, they've been here for 20 years and here they are with the plans. I mean, the sign-off for that stadium is literally can happen any day. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened in the next few weeks. And as we saw, and look, we've got to figure out that we're not all united. We all think different things. That's life. Can you remember when they put out the ChatGPT images of the stadium? There was protests on the Sunday. On the Tuesday, half the fan base were like, I couldn't give a shit about the protest. Look at the stadium. And it was a shit design. And still, half of our fan base were like, oh, yeah, but I love it. I love it. There's too many people in our fan base that are easily swayed by a blue car. And what I mean by that is, you know, I think it was in The Simpsons where Homer goes, look, a blue car. And everyone goes, ooh, it's a blue car. But there's too many people in our fan base that are swayed by completely irrelevant things that take you away from what matters. We had a protest on the Sunday. On the Tuesday, they put some ChatGPT images out of a circus bloody tent. And everyone's going, half the fan base goes, ooh, you know, and that so, you know, it's always going to be a problem. And they are that close to that being signed off. And I think when that happens, even if we're 10th in the league, people will go, well, we'll be back then. When we build that, we'll be back. Gandos says, Ollie had his chance, he failed, and we moved on. Thank you, pal. Sal says, I would give Fletcher a chance as interim manager, Rudin Carrick as assistant coach for the remainder of the season. I mean, Carrick wants the job. He won't be an assistant. So, you know, I don't think we can do that. Fletcher saying he's sure the board will do what's best for the club's future and they will be strong enough to deal with this pressure. What a joke, says River. I mean, look, Fletcher has been at the club for years. I've heard people calling him Darren Glazer. I've heard people say, you know, he talks about the academy like he didn't have his kids at Man City for years and then brought them to Man United because he thought they'd have a better chance of first team football. I mean, you know, is Darren Fletcher the problem at Man United? No, he's not. I think these sort of avenues, I don't think they do any good. I think that Darren Fletcher is an employee of Man United for many years. He's not going to sit in a press conference and suddenly start slagging off his employers, is he? He spoke about DNA. He spoke about attacking football like we're not in the top 3 for chances created already this season. There seems to be a real push by United to try and pretend that Amrin was sacked because we were playing the worst football in history and doing really, really bad. But they sacked him because he wanted signings. I don't know why a journalist hasn't asked Fletcher that. Instead of talking about what do you think is going to happen next, this, that and the other, why didn't someone say to Darren Fletcher, how comfortable are you to step into the manager's shoes when he was sacked because he wanted signings in January? Do you think he was right? Or do you think this team doesn't need signings in January? What a question. What a question. Why has a journalist not figured that one out? It's not antagonistic, it's truthful, it's to the point. How comfortable are you to step into somebody's shoes who was sacked because he asked for players to help him build his project? What a question. Then let's see what the answer is. Because if he comes out and says, I don't think we need players, we're good enough, he's talking out of his arse. It would be a good question. Ollie extended Jones's contract. We've done that. Fletcher saying... Oh, just on the game today, by the way, one thing that Darren Fletcher did say is that JJ Gabriel is not playing. It's interesting because I actually... Look, we will never know. We will never know. But the general feeling was that he would be involved today if Amrin was going to be in charge. That had been hinted at for weeks. It started in mid-November. Even Amrin himself sort of hinted at it. He can't play in the Premier League. He can only play in the FA Cup because of his age. When the Premier League started, I think he was 14 or something like, or 15. He can't play in the Premier League this season, but he can play in the FA Cup. He's not playing in the FA Cup. He's not part of the squad. Fletcher said, good player, but he's not going to be part of it today. So whether that's disappointing or not, I don't know. I mean, he's very, very young. It's not like I think it's just curiosity, isn't it? It'd be nice. Arsenal have done it with Dowman. This is a player that big clubs are going to be going for when he's 16, and they can go for him because he's out of contract. You can't stop it. So are they not picking him because they think that'll help other clubs not go for him? I don't know. Third in attacking output. So what was Ten Hag's? Because a lot of people didn't care about that, says Black Wolf. I don't know. Go and find out yourself. I'm just saying it in response to United keep pushing it out there that we need to play attacking football like we haven't been creating loads of chances and playing attacking football. Man United's problem is their midfield, mate. If we sorted the midfield out, it's not going to make us less attacking, is it? If we sort our defence out, it's not going to make us less attacking. If we're creating loads of chances with 50% possession, imagine what we'll do with 60% possession. It's natural that the reason people are talking about the attacking output being good this season is because everybody understands that we haven't played that well. Everyone understands the results haven't been that good. So the reason people are talking about United scoring the 3rd most goals in the league, having the 3rd best XG and being in the top 3 for chances created is that we all understand the results haven't been good. We all understand the football hasn't necessarily been that good. But if we're in the top 3 for attacking output when we're not doing that well, imagine what we'd be if Amrin had been allowed to get the players in he wanted. The attacking output's not going to go down. If you make your team better, it's going to go up even more, isn't it? That's what people are saying it for. I don't think anybody's saying the attacking output was really good, we were playing well. I think they're using it in the sense that the attacking output was really good and we weren't playing well. So imagine if we'd improved the areas that were causing that, the attacking output would have gone up even more. I.e., I think if we'd bought midfielders in, that which is where the problem is, and wide players, we'd have attacked even more. We'd have even been a better side. But some people like yourself just don't seem to grasp the fact that we're not saying the attacking output was good so everything was okay. We're saying the attacking output was very good and we weren't playing that well. So build on that. But no, we've gone and sacked the manager that had the good attacking output because he fell out with the board because he wanted to improve the team. It's ridiculous. And nobody can spin that one any different way, right? Our attacking output was really good. The manager wasn't happy with the results, wasn't happy with the team, wanted to keep improving it, and the board said no. And we sacked the manager. And that's where we are today. At this rate, we will be irrelevant by the time we build that stadium. How the hell are we going to pay for it? Football-wise, we will be sunk, says Emily Derry. Mark, why can't you just accept Ollie as interim till the end of the season and not listen to the shit reporters saying anything other than that, says Castle. I don't listen to reporters, mate. I don't know who you think you're talking to. I think you're watching somebody else. What are you on about? I don't listen to reporters. I listen to what I know. I listen to what I get told. I don't listen to I don't read reporters and think it's true. I think most of them are shit. I think most of them are on the bloody payroll. I don't accept Ollie as an interim because I don't trust the football club. And from what I'm hearing, he won't just be an interim. He'll be here next season. Of course, they're going to get morons like you to believe he's only going to be here as an interim because that's how you do it. Imagine Castle, right? Let's just play a game here, right? Man United tell the truth. We're giving it to Ollie. He's going to help us with transfers. And if we do well, he's staying. Imagine the uproar to that. But that's the truth. If Ollie comes in and does well, they'll keep him. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. But if they say that, they're already getting rinsed and embarrassed and ridiculed. If they tell the truth, oh my God, it's big, big trouble. So they're lying. They're basically saying, no, it's definitely only till the summer, no matter what. It's just till the summer, no matter what. And it's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. You just don't want it to be true. What you want to do is go, oh, you're all negative, you're all liars, trust the Glazers. And all you're asking me to do is trust the Glazers, aren't you? You've got no information at all. Nothing. You've got absolutely nothing that can tell me, or anybody else that fears this, that Ollie's going to get the job full-time in the summer. Other than the words of Wilcox and Sir Jim and the Glazers. That's all you've got. Well, I'm telling you what, you can take those words and you can ram them where the sun don't shine, because I don't trust them. So don't sit here telling us that he's only going to have the job till the summer. Who's told you that? Journalists who work for the club? Oh, yeah. Look, has this happened before? Did the club say Ollie was only an interim till the summer before and then he got the job? Yes. So, look, we'll wait and see what happens, but I am not listening to people telling me, oh, stop moaning, it's only till the summer. And then you go, who's told you that? Well, that's what I think's going to happen. Yeah, well, I ain't listening to that. Who's told you that? Well, The Athletic have said it. Oh, really? Where do you think they're getting their info from? The club. Who runs the club? The Ineos and the Glazers. So you want me to believe them? Oh, right, okay. What, the same people who said Dan Ashworth's a 10 out of 10 sporting director and they sacked him after 3 months? The same people that recruited Ruben Amorim and said, this is a guy that's going to be here for 3 years and we're going to build with, and we sacked him 3 months later? The same people that decided to keep Ten Hag and then sacked him 3 months later? Yeah, I think 3 months is something that you've got to keep in your mind. And he's only here for 3 months. Sorry, he's only here till the summer. 3 months later, you give him the full-time job. 3 months from now, end of April, oh, God. It's almost like anything they say, don't believe it, because they'll do the opposite in 3 months' time. So Ollie's here for an interim job at the end of January, end of April, full-time job. I'm calling it now. Calling it now. Just imagine the state of the things if Ineos and Glazers are still around in 10 years, says Anthony. And also, games are won and lost in the midfield, says Emily. Even Wilcox and our board know that. They refuse to address it. They won't do it in January because it will be admitting they were wrong and taking accountability. It's going to be interesting to see what we do with the midfield, you know. I don't think Darren Fletcher will pick Bruno Fernandes in the midfield. I think that was a very niche, nuanced thing that Amorim thought would work. And look, there will be people out there that will post Bruno's stats and say attacking output, it did work, but eye test, it didn't. I think that you've got to play Bruno as a 10, which means he's got Casemiro, Mainu, and Agate to rotate in 2 positions. We're ridiculously short. Again, look, we can have grown-up conversations about factual stuff that's going to happen, like the next 4 months you need to be talking to your summer transfer targets. What you're selling them, no one knows. And the next 3 months, 4 months, 4.5 months till the end of the season, we're going to play a 4-3-3. If we're not going to play Bruno in one of the 2 midfield positions behind the 10, we've got Agate, Mainu, and Casemiro to rotate for 2 positions every game. It's not enough, is it? Mainu, Agate, and Casemiro is not enough for 2 midfield positions. So maybe we will still play Bruno in the midfield. I don't know. Maybe we will. Even in a back 4, maybe we will. We're short. And the reason I mention that is because Emily raises a good point about the midfield. In Amram's 3-4-3, he had Bruno playing in one of the positions, and we still needed another midfielder. In a Fletcher Ollie back four, you play a midfield three. If Bruno's the 10, you've still got 2 midfield positions to cover and only 3 players who can play it. It's not enough. Even if you think those players are good enough, it's not enough. So we're massively short. Massively short. Coney may get a chance. I thought Coney had gone on loan. Collier's meant to be going on loan as well. I mean, look, a young player might be the answer, but it's hard. It's hard unless you're that, I mean, Cesc Fabregas did it at that age. You can do it. You can play in the Premier League centre midfielder at 18. Jude Bellingham was doing it at 16 at Birmingham. But I don't know whether we've got anybody that's ready to do that right now. We're really sure. But Emily's right. They won't buy midfielders because they don't want to get proved wrong. Because if they buy a midfielder, they sacked Amrin because he wanted one. So they can't do it now. I mean, we are a football club that is behaving like Coronation Street. It's more about, getting your storyline right than actually doing what's best for the club. Let's just see what happens in the summer, says Castle. You really are a glazer, aren't you? Let's not wait and see what happens till the summer. Let's put pressure on an ownership that's ruining the football club every minute of every day and ask questions instead of sitting back like you want to, you troll. Pressure is going to be on Ollie from day one. Anyway, he gave us one hell of a night in Paris, says Johnny. And Emily's back again. She says, games are won and... I've done that one. Sorry, I didn't read this one. No, we've done that one as well. Okay. Nearly 18,000 watching this morning. Huge numbers again because we're talking about what matters. We're talking about what matters to you. We're talking about the ownership and the board of this football club that are the real issue. What I've really enjoyed this week is that we're not really talking about the players. They are the problem. There are players in that team that are a problem, but we're not talking about them because they're problems that get resolved if you change the board and the owners. So this pressure on the board and the owners is fantastic, and there's clearly an appetite for it. I've done shows before with 20,000 people watching, and it's because you're going to sign Belabor. It's because you're getting very close to signing Mount or something like that. You've got nearly 20,000 people watching, and we're talking about interims. We're talking about board decisions. We're talking about the club. We're talking about what a mess it is. We're talking about how can you sign players in the summer when you're approaching them in March. What are you saying to them? We're not in Europe. We don't know who the manager is. It might be Ollie. Yeah, they've fucked up so big. And there are fans out there like Castle, to be fair, who just want positivity. That's how they live their life, and that's fine. Respect them. They're not up for a fight. They're not up for a conversation. They want to pretend everything's okay. The trouble with that, Castle, is that people are tired. People are fed up. People are frustrated. People can use their head. People can think. And the problem you've got, Castle, and any of you positive merchants out there, is there's nothing wrong with doing that. But everything you tell us to be positive about means trusting the Glazers and Ineos. And nobody trusts them anymore because they have proven themselves to be untrustworthy because they've lied or they've changed their mind. Either way, trust cannot be built on people who change their minds or lie. And we've got factual statements from Sir Jim Radcliffe about Dan Ashworth being a 10 out of 10 sporting director and sacking him. We've got factual statements from Sir Jim Radcliffe saying that they're backing Eric Ten Hag, giving him £300 million and then sacking him 3 months later. We've got factual statements from Sir Jim Radcliffe saying Amram 3 years and then sacks him 3 months later. You can't trust that. So, look, if you are positive, good for you. But the only way positivity resides in me and many others is if we believe Man United are on the right track, which means believing everything that's chaotic is actually done for a reason, and believing the nonsense. Well, I don't even know what you're meant to believe. How can you sit there and be positive about Man United when you listen to what I've just said there about what Sir Jim said 3 months ago and then what he's done, or what he did there and what he did? How can you be positive when the statements they're making are proven to be not true 3 months later? You can't believe a liar, can you? You can't believe somebody who changes their mind. So what are you positive about? What are you positive about? It doesn't make you less of a fan to moan about the way your club's being run. In fact, it probably makes you more of a fan. Were Newcastle fans not proper fans because they wanted Mike Ashley out of the football club? I'd say there were more fans than the people who wanted to keep him because they understood what was happening, I'll have a conversation anytime you want, says Castle. I've already had a conversation with you, mate. And to be honest with you, I'm bored of what you're saying because I think you're a troll. I don't think you've said anything that's worthy of wasting anybody else's time. You've told us to wait till the summer and be patient, and I've told you why we shouldn't. There's no conversation to be had. Come up with a good point. I'll have another conversation with you. I'm sure everybody else will. Am I doing the Arsenal match? No. No, I'm not. The FA Cup can do one, apart from Man United. I think it's a big game for us later. Baz says, the best love is tough love. And Stockholm Syndrome fan, says John. I think it's really important to say, if you want Solskjaer and you want him to do well, I don't really have a problem with you. I don't have a problem. I respect that opinion, but I think there's overwhelming evidence that he is a Glazer yes man, and I'm not interested in supporting somebody that's basically coming in to prop the Glazers up for their own work, their own benefit. It's self-serving. I want the job for free. I don't care about transfers. I just want the Man United job because I love the job. If you loved Man United, you wouldn't take the job, mate. You're taking the job because it's an opportunity that no one else is giving you. No one's queuing up to give Solskjaer a job, are they? There's no... Real Madrid don't want him. Real Betis don't want him. Nobody wants Solskjaer. And then he's there, I'll take the Man United job because I love Man United. I love Man United. I'll do it for free. You're running to help the Glazers. You're running to help Ineos. Nobody else wants you. So, look, I know he loves Man United. He's a legend of the club, but let's not pretend he's like, he deserves a medal for it. He's running to help the Glazers and Ineos because they need somebody to protect them. And he's running to do it again. That's the way I see it. But other people will see it in a different way. So that's why I would say, if you want Ollie, fine. I respect it, but please respect the fact that other people might not think and see it that way. Joseph says you wanted Gyökeres, the worst striker in the league. And that's got, what's that got to do with anything? Oh, so Roy Keane's never said anything wrong. Thierry Henry's never said anything wrong. Mate, if you can find me someone in football that gets absolutely everything right, I'll call you a liar. And what's Gyökeres got to do with it? I thought Agate would be a good signing as well. Toxic Sunday, says Lee. Well, no, idiots. Mate, at the end of it. Anyway, Joseph, I'd still take Gyökeres at Man United. You know what? Gyökeres at Man United under Amorim, I bet he would have done better than he's done at Arteta. With Arteta, I'd still take Gyökeres. I'd still take him, actually. So I don't even own that one. I'd still take him, 100%. Frank says, stop the Solskjaer hating, Mark. There's no need, bang out of order. Well, how's about you can leave and go somewhere else? And mate, there'll be plenty of channels and content creators and journalists out there sucking him off. So you go and find that. I'm not hating on anybody. I don't hate anybody. What the problem is, if we, throw that back onto you for a moment, what's happened here is you don't like all the evidence we've given you about Ollie coming back being a mistake and basically a Glazer yes man. You don't like that. So the only thing you've got to all of us who don't like this, what's happening at our football club, is to call us haters. And you know what? I love it. I love it when someone calls me a hater because I know I've won. Because you've got all the words and all the sentences you could say that maybe could, expose me or trip me up or, come up with a good point, maybe something as novel as that. And you just say, stop the hate. And I think, you know what? I've already won. Because if that's what you think, that's all you've got in the face of numerous bits of evidence, it's laughable. Absolutely laughable that that's all you've got. Anyway, if Amorim did not receive the backing from the Glazers he needed to succeed, how can people expect Ollie to succeed? But he'll do it with a smile on his face, won't he, mate? He'll do it with a smile on his face. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the match later. I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe. Why have I got my gilet on, by the way? I found it in the cupboard the other day and it's been really cold. And you can wear it around the house without it being a coat. And it just keeps you nice and warm. I like it. I love it. Anyway, stay safe, everyone. Brilliant show this morning. Keep the conversation coming in. And to all the people who are saying haters or Joseph or people like that or Castle, love it. Love having you part of the community. You make it what it is. The other side of the coin, the conversation, the debate. Because ultimately, even the people that are backing the Glazers and backing these decisions in the debate create the conversation, create the passion. So you're all feeding into the ingredients of it, which is brilliant. Sack the board. Take care. Speak to you in a bit.